What up, everybody? This your boy Black Magus, and normally I don't do videos like this, but this one kinda did hit me when I saw it. The man you see pictured right there is Stuart Scott, ESPN anchor. He just died at the age of 49. He was battling cancer, and unfortunately, he succumbed to it. Seriously, I know people might look at this and be like, yo, you bugging, this dude was just, a TV personality. You don't really mean this when you say it, but I do. My heart goes out to his family because anyone who knows me personally knows that cancer devastated me last year. Cancer was this theme of my family's life last year. It took my mom. It, made my sister's year just ridiculously, hard. Cancer's a bitch. It is a son of a bitch. Seriously. It devastates so many lives, and when I saw this, I guess the reason it impacted me the way it has was because what I've gone through with my family. So, I really do feel for his family because I know what they have to be going through. And it's one thing if it's just a natural death, sudden, even if it's just an accident, something happens. But cancer is kind of a really fucked up thing because it's it's there and you can't stop it. And to see someone you love go through that, trying to fight, do what they can, try to be strong for you as well as themselves and try to do as much as they can with their life, knowing that, there's no way in hell that they're going to surpass this. That's a fucking, that right there, that is one of the more crueler things in life, I think. Just to know that no matter what you do, it's only a matter of time. And in reality, we shouldn't look at it as probably as bad as I just framed it, because that's life. Life is built like that. You never know when the end is come. You can't stop death. Death is one thing that none of us on this planet will ever get past. We're all, sorry to sound so morbid, but we all are one day going to die. That's just, that's just reality of life. You're born, you die. But I think the reason why at least I know why I feel so, passionate about how cancer is just such a horrible thing, beyond just, my personal experiences with it, is just that, terminal diseases, it just makes you feel like, while there's a plan, I'm not a religious person. I do believe in God, and I do believe that, things happen for a reason, and I'm sure there's a reason why it happens. It just feels very wrong when terminal disease is what takes you out of here, in my mind. It just feels like somebody's playing a huge joke on you, putting that burden on you. But yeah, man, that's crazy. Just going into Stuart Scott a little bit. For all you younger guys who just came upon Stuart Scott, I have to say, you guys missed his heyday. It's a shame that he got sick in recent years, because in his prime, Stuart Scott was amazing. He was very impactful on the sports world. I definitely say that. He came about in the early 90s where, SportsCenter was kind of getting a change. SportsCenter, ESPN, they were making a turn into that Gen X thing, and he was one of those people who helped lead the way. I honestly think that a lot of the personalities that we see now, and that have come since he showed up on the scene in 1993, they kind of have a little influence from him because he was one of those people who were part of that group back in the early '90s where SportsCenter, their personalities were starting to come out. Their personalities were starting to lead the way. The Dan Patricks, Chris Berman. He'd been there for ever, but his personality started to like rise a little bit more, and he started to get a little more flamboyant in the early '90s. Keith Olbermann, things like that. They started Rich Eisen. They started to bring on these personalities that weren't just sports anchors; they were entertainers. I don't know if this was something intentional for them, if this was a directive that was told by SportsCenter bosses, but you could start to see in the early '90s SportsCenter started to become like that show that when you were like in high school, like I was back then, you tried your best to stay up as late as possible just to see SportsCenter because you wanted to hear those cool catchphrases. And when Stuart came in, he kind of, blew the roof off of all of that stuff because his catchphrases were a lot more personable, especially as an African American, because he used common slang that we use, and he helped develop a whole new slang set for referring to sports. And it was really cool. It was like hearing that dude go booyah and all that. Talking about Pookie, Ray Ray, and them. It was like when we first saw him, we would laugh. That was your first reaction. You would laugh because it caught you off guard. It was funny, but more importantly, it was like, yo, this dude is just wow. He's crazy. I'm sure some people didn't care for his style, but it was refreshing because it was kind of like one of those things, like I was saying, that help usher in the high point of the ESPN era, that sent ESPN to the point it is now. I think without him, Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann, and all those guys, I don't think ESPN would be anywhere near where it's at now, because that whole period brought a more relaxed, personable way of conveying, sports. That's when NFL Countdown, once they got the NFL license, that's when NFL Countdown came through, and you could see, like, with Berman in control, they let them, like, do their thing. You know what I mean? That whole, like, early period of the 90s with SportsCenter helped shape what we get now, how they act now. A Jalen Rose probably would have never, ever gotten the opportunities that he got, because Jalen Rose isn't, the cookie cutter analyst type of person. He's a very, say what hell on his mind type of person. Shaq being big and goofy and like that, the way that the TNT crew acts, that shit would have never happened if it wasn't for Stuart Scott and Dan Patrick and them in that era. Especially with Stuart Scott with the African American set, because you didn't get a lot of African American analysts, and those that you got, they were more of the old guard. It's like I think Gilmore is still on SportsCenter, and I like him, but he's the more reserved, thoughtful, traditional type of analyst. You didn't get that type of analyst that you get out of Shaq and things like that back then. That was him, and it's not knocking that style, but it kind of opened it up and like made it a little fresher, and it made it got people a little more excited about listening to broadcasts and things like that. It helps. It brought a more entertaining value, especially if a game was bad. If a game was bad, you wouldn't watch, but like I'll sit and I'll watch more colorful people call a game, like Stan Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, because they're just as entertaining as a good game, And I think Stuart Scott and people, from that era, they helped that. And Stuart Scott definitely did do a lot for the African American set, because you see a lot more African American, journalists on there. Back when he started, I would say it was Stuart Scott and it was Robin Roberts. Now, you get a lot. You see a lot more color sprinkled. Well, I'm sorry, John Saunders was around too. I think that was it. But now, you see Sage Steele, you see Jonathan Coachman. There's a lot more, people, and you see a lot more African Americans actually go out to be, sports anchors. Now, I mean, again, growing up in the 80s and part of the 90s, you look on, regular network TV, and the sports personalities were always, older white men. Now, because of the things that they did early in SportsCenter and because of Stuart Scott and, all of that, you see more African Americans. And, just to go on a little aside here, SportsCenter, should be celebrated for how it made the whole sports broadcasting thing more diverse. Anyway, because I mentioned Robin Roberts, you had Susan Colbert, they put on a lot of women too, and that helped revolutionize that for women too. So, Stuart, he hit at the right time because he was able to be one of those influential people at a time where SportsCenter and ESPN, they were pushing things and making sportscasting a lot more diverse, and I'm glad that I was able to grow up in that era and see this whole evolution. And someone like Stuart, he was very, very cool. He was very personable. You could tell it was natural. It wasn't like something that he just made up. When he said that stuff, it just rolled right out. It was just like this dude was just talking. It didn't seem contrived. It didn't seem manufactured. He was just doing his thing. He was just being him. And that definitely, in my opinion, is his legacy, is that he was just a cool dude who was himself and helped establish, a golden age in sports broadcasting, a revolution in sports broadcasting, and as an African American, you have to definitely give him, the accolade of being an inspiration because, like I said, you look around the landscape of sports broadcasting now, and you have a lot more African American anchors than 21 years ago when he started. You would have probably have never seen, and you see a lot more personality from them. They're not, they don't have to be standard bearers. They can be themselves, and that's a cool damn thing, and in a way it goes for all sportscasters, not just African Americans, of all races, men or women. We see now sportscasters, their personalities are a lot more open than they are, and I think that's a great thing. And I appreciate Stuart Scott and the rest of those guys that he worked with in that time for bringing that to sports. But Stuart, I especially appreciate Stuart because he was one of my favorites. He definitely was always one of my favorites, and I'm really sad to see him go the way he did. I mean, like I said, cancer just ridiculously fucked up. Man, I'm not even gonna go into it because I'm gonna start tearing up again. But God bless you, Stuart. You had a hell of a run. Glad to say that I was able to see the entire run, and glad that you did your thing. As he always said, he was as cool as the other side of the pillow, and he'll be well missed. He'll definitely be well missed in this sports community. But anyway, you guys hit me up. Let me know what you think, and I'll holler at you later. This your boy Black Megas, and I'm out. Deuces.